So now that we've explored physical geography and how we can understand the global community and our physical planet from that physical perspective, let's think about human geography and the way in which humans interact with their physical environment, which can lead to all kinds of different outcomes. So now clearly humans live on planet Earth, and our physical environment is full of things that are really available to all of us. Air, water resources, open spaces, these are what we refer to as the global commons. The global commons are those environmental aspects that are available to all human beings or those living on the planet, humans and wildlife. Now, one of the things we really must consider is what we call tragedy of the commons. And that is because these common spaces, common assets of planet Earth, our common environment, is available to all of us, that means that it's subject potentially to harm from some of us. There's this problem between self-interest and what's good for the collective. Now, one of the interesting aspects of the global commons, because the environment, these environmental assets are available to all of us, is that we don't necessarily all equally protect it. This can be referred to as the tragedy of the commons, where self-interest might get in the way of protecting a global asset that's in the global or collective good. Now, let's think about some ways in which humans can actually have an impact on our global commons. Human settlements, for example, by nature, actually have an impact on nature. Humans who come together around different resources, bodies of water, fresh water, various types of things that they live off the earth. They grow food, they engage in practices that actually can have a negative impact on the global commons. So human settlements are one way in which human beings can have an impact on our global commons, on our physical geography, on our global environment. Now, of course, when we talk about human settlements, we also have to talk about human displacement and the ways in which people migrate and move around. Sometimes they move around because they want access to other resources, because they've depleted resources somewhere, they're just moving to a different geographical location. Humans do move and migrate. But humans are also forced to move and migrate. Sometimes war, natural disaster, other types of tragedies might force humans to move and congregate in ways that's even more detrimental to a global space. Now, population growth also has an impact on our planet Earth, on our human environment, physical environment. Population growth obviously requires additional food resources and other natural resources to serve that growing population. So population itself, as the population grows, that can put pressure on the global commons and on natural resources. Many countries and many locations, in fact, deal with food insecurity, the lack of proper access to enough food. We'll deal with this issue in a separate discussion, but keep in mind that this is one way in which human settlements and human populations can have an impact on our global commons and our global environment. Now, there are a number of other ways in which humans can have an impact on their physical environment. One of those is deforestation. That's when humans might cut down trees in order to graze cattle, graze livestock, grow food. This deforestation, of course, removes what we call a carbon sink from our environment. Trees are a carbon sink. They suck in all of the carbon dioxide that we are producing in our environment. And as you remove trees, you also remove the way in which we can absorb and get rid of that carbon in our environment. So deforestation in and of itself is a way in which we contribute in a negative way to our global common spaces. Another way that humans can have an impact on the global commons and contribute to this tragedy of the global commons is by overusing land and contributing to this process we call desertification. Desertification has to do with the spreading of unarable land, land that is not really useful, has been depleted of its nutrients and isn't as useful to produce food. So this, of course, leads back to this problem of food productivity and leading to food shortages, but it can also lead to increased natural disasters like extreme flooding, for example. Water resources can be contaminated by human waste, animal waste, toxic runoff, through agricultural and industrial output and pollution. This affects water resources. This, of course, limits or may limit access to clean water for drinking, for cooking, for agricultural practices, basically for all kinds of human use and consumption. And finally, humans have an impact on the global commons by burning fossil fuels, which pollutes the atmosphere and traps gases within that atmosphere, leading to climate change as the Earth can warm. Through various types of industrial activities, we burn these fossil fuels and we produce gases like carbon and methane, which gets trapped within the atmosphere and creates climate change through global warming. Now, many of these negative effects of human life on planet Earth may be avoidable. Think about how you might reduce your negative impact, reduce your carbon footprint. What could you do? Could you reduce, reuse, recycle? Give some thought to what you could do and what the challenges might be in overcoming the tragedy of the commons. Tell us what you think.